You're good.
All right. And then the first order of business is we're going to have a budget work session to look at possible ways of reducing the budget by $200,000.
Yep.
So since last week at the meeting here, we went through a bunch of ideas and suggestions. Since then, Ron Beard has weighed in, Tara Tower has weighed in, Butch has weighed in. We got an email from Paul Bowden has weighed in. Where do we want to start? And do you want to get down through each budget numerically, or do you want to start with where we were last week? Or
Well, I would be curious to hear, now that you and Jack have had a minute to look over the budget, what your suggestions would be. I shared mine last week because I stressed about it ever since town meeting. So, because that's what I do.
And I'll
but
just
I'm
preface.
curious to see what your suggestions are.
Yeah, and I'll just preface that obviously my summary, I have since learned a lot of Ron's and, some of us have doubled and tripled up on suggestions. So that could have got a little confusing too, but so I'll just give you that. But yeah, I think that's a good place to start, you guys, and whatever you need from us. Ours is all in writing, so there you go. Yeah.
Go ahead,
Okay,
Jack. Yeah.
I'd just like to say, I think one thing that was omitted from Butch's, and I've talked with a number of department heads, was the iPads amounting to $13,000 for the budget committee. And I was the one that was pushing for that over a number of years. And again, if we're going to take it out of the planning board, not give them iPads, I think we could do the same and save ourselves $13,000 along the way, whether it goes back into Tara's or what have you. But I thought Butch did a good job in talking with all the department heads. Everybody seemed to say, yeah, without jeopardizing public safety and or, kicking the can too far down the road, that we could meet the taxpayers' request of the $200,000. I noticed that in Butch's proposed cuts, that a number of the items that Paul Bowden mentioned were in there, maybe not to the extent that Paul wanted, but at least I know in the police, Chad has agreed to hold off till December 1st, and that was a savings of $44,000. Paul had pushed for, I think, $236,000. But, I thought that, and I could support Butch's with the addition of the $13,000 going in for the budget committee iPads and adding 13,000 or 10,000 somewhere else.
Yeah, and I had on my, whoops, I'm off. I'm back. Am I back?
Your
We can hear
audio, but
you.
yeah,
We can hear you.
not your video
Okay.
though.
Okay, I'm gonna save some bandwidth and stay off. My internet's going bad. I'll just quickly say I had the $13,000 on my handwritten notes, Jack, but I never typed it into my memo. So Jonna reminded me of that, and so I would support that. I think it certainly wasn't a unanimous. Neither board was unanimous on wanting them, and I think Jack's probably correct that nobody will really get a tear up, given what's going on. So, so thanks for picking up on that. And obviously, in the last part of my memo, my remaining coming out of legal would drop by 13,000, whatever the number is, because that would be an addition. So, which I haven't done the numbers, but it would be somewhere in the, I don't know, whatever it is.
So Jonna sent a spreadsheet a few minutes ago, and I don't understand it. Do you have that, Butch?
I probably do, but like I said, my internet, I can't pull up two things at once. I don't know as I'll stay with you if I try. I didn't get a chance to read it. I think what she was, I don't know what.
I can screen share it if you'd like.
That
Well,
might
I
be a
want
good
to, I'd like to run down through my suggestions, and I have a little bit different perspective on this than Tamara or Butch.
Okay,
Okay, go for it.
So just to run down budget by budget. I took $13,000 out of executive for the computers, just as we all just spoke about. I did not take the 5,000 out for engineering that we spoke about last week.
Mhm.
I took $8,000 out of the library that we talked about last week. I left the health budget completely alone. I took $5,000 out of welfare that we talked about last week. I did the 11,000 out of solid waste that we talked about last week. I took 10,000 out of the town building, which leaves us enough to do one AC this year.
Mhm.
I mean, these are going to have to be done. Cutting it out of the budget does not save us money. It just
Right.
puts more burden onto what we're going to have to fund next year. And I just,
It's the same with the 11 out of solid waste. It's
Well-
not something that we can get away without doing. We're gonna have to do more next year, but I get it. I get it.
I agree with that. And I question whether we should do 11 out of solid waste or do 5 out of solid waste, leave 6 in there, and then do again, half as much or whatever we need next year. And that's not, but I left the 11 in there. We can talk about that. So I
Right,
did
right, right. Okay,
10 at the town building, took 10 out of town building, not 20.
yep,
I took the 10,000 out of the rec department. I took 8,000 out of planning we talked about for the computers. I took 70,000 out of legal. I took the $2,500 off the holiday volunteer night party. And then on the fire department, I took all of Ron's suggestions except the portable radios for the same issue. We're gonna cut 16,000. We're doing the portable radios a little bit each year. To cut those out of this year and throw them into next year is just gonna make the budget increase by that much more next year. I think we should leave the whole 16 in. If Ron wants to weigh in on this and convince me otherwise, that, well, maybe we should only cut it a little bit this year, but not the full 16, I'm open to listen. But to take 16 out this year and throw it in next year, knowing that we got ourselves into this problem with the police radios. We had a police chief who had a non-functioning radio at a crime scene, or an emergency scene, I should call it, where he couldn't talk to his people. And we don't want to get to that point. We want to keep these things replaced. Anyway, the rest of Ron's were fine.
that was gonna be my suggestion too.
Okay, I think we should take $6,000 out of personnel. We got a notice, whatever, yesterday, today, that the medical insurance rates are going to drop. And I know there's a qualifying statement in there that it doesn't apply to every town the same, this and that, but just a rough estimate that 6,000 can come out of personnel. I did not change the 3% raise. I took the $44,000 out of police department, again, hiring 1 new officer by July 1 and a second new officer by December 1. We can reduce that 44,000. And those numbers there come up to $201,500 savings.
Okay, I'd like to hear Ron talk about his fire radios in your proposal, if this would be the time for him to do that.
Yeah.
Ron and I had a long talk about his radios, so, and he was convincing to me, but I think he should chime in with you guys.
Sounds good. Ron, you want to talk?
Obviously, the radios we're currently using are from a grant from, I think, August of 2006. And it truly is a time to start a phased replacement, but, you know, I was looking at the overall picture, and that's something that, you know, I was willing to put a year off, but if you choose to not do that, I'm fine with that. You know, obviously, you know, the sooner we get going with that, the cheaper it's gonna be.
How many radios do you need to replace?
Well, I was hoping to do 4 a year for like the next 4 years, and that would get me where I need to be.
Okay, so the 16,000 buys 4 radios?
That's correct.
Okay, so if we don't do that this year and we extend the whole, we still do it over a 4-year period, but don't wait, I mean, don't start till next year. We're looking at 5 years from now, which is 2026, to replace the 2006 radio. So they'll be 20 years old at the time.
Right. And the cost goes up every year also. So, you know, the technology isn't getting cheaper.
How many
So, you know,
radios-
I think you're correct, you know, and we shouldn't kick that can down the road, but I was just looking for, you know, what I could give back out of this budget.
how many do you have that are non-functioning right now?
Probably a good 8 to 10 of them.
Yeah, I don't think we should wait.
Yeah, I don't want to wait.
No, I don't either.
Okay.
That's,
But thank you for your efforts, but
absolutely, absolutely.
I don't want to be talking after a fire scene of how you guys couldn't talk to each other.
No, I agree.
Firefighters
I
got
agree.
injured because he couldn't communicate. Yeah, no, I'm not okay with that.
Okay. No, just, you know,
Now,
you,
obviously, if there are grants available,
oh, I definitely take advantage of that.
yeah, and you're great at doing that. You know, and if that comes this year, we can relook at this, but I don't want to pull it out now.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
The only other question I have, OJ,
Yep,
I'm gonna defend the welfare budget. While I understand we go wherever we have to go with that budget, similar to legal. We have seen an uptick in request. We had a community drop a homeless person off the other day, and Jane had to deal with it. Fortunately, she had the connections, and I think it only cost us a couple of $100 at most to get that person relocated to a home. But you know, I just think I just put it out there. I know you guys are well aware. We're obligated by law to spend what we have to spend. I don't think it's a huge budget now, but I understand what you know, we got to do what we got to do. But so I'll just make that pitch. You obviously it's up to you guys, and we'll go from there.
I guess my thoughts on that are, you know, it's I don't want to say we can't control it, because Jane puts a lot of time and effort into controlling it and does a great job. But again, if a new case comes up tomorrow and they qualify and it becomes long-term, we have to pay for it regardless of what we budget. I wouldn't mind taking the money out of there, because I think there's going to be other savings in other departments we can't count on right now, but we know like personnel costs are a big guess, because we don't know,
Right.
you know, all of the insurances, you know, and again, they're giving us general numbers, but you know, you can save 1,000 here, 1,000 there. We have some employees who have left the town employment. They haven't been replaced. We don't know who we're replacing them with and what they're going to need. You know, other budgets can vary. So I'm comfortable taking the 5,000 out of welfare, knowing full
Okay.
well that if we get an increased caseload, we're going to spend more than what we
Yep.
budgeted.
Okay. I just thought we had a conversation.
Yep.
That's good. All right.
On the solid waste, we get 11,000 that we are talking about cutting out related to the rental of the compost screen and tub grinder.
Yep.
The $11,000, is that for two rental things going throughout the year, like, one
No,
now?
they come in once a year and usually in the late fall.
I think it's
Um,
every 2 years, isn't it?
They were doing it annually and they may have, I think it's last time it stretched almost into a year and a half, but they gather enough brush so that it should be done annually. But having said that, and that's when it's done and the logging industry right now is out straight. They're far from not having work, and thus the price of getting one of these tub grinders in that normally makes chips for power plants and stuff. We're paying the primo price, but I will just say that I understand. But when that brush gets piled up down there, and Ron can chime in when it gets dry, it's dangerous. And it's usually in the fall, we should get that chipped. I lobbied for, as you can remember years ago, when we were getting complaint of ashes, and smoke through the with the river, the hotels and things like that. So we went away from burning. I still don't think burning is a good idea. So is it something we can live without? We absolutely could. We'll do it. We'll do it in the wintertime, I guess. But those the costs aren't going to change, my guess. So it's like we're putting off. We just kick it down the road. We can do it, but and that is a cost that's split between two towns. So we budget it. It's not 22 grand. It's a total $11,000 to have them come in. So, but we budgeted in our budget because it's part of the operation. So.
That was something I was going to mention too, where it is a joint budget.
Yeah.
And I did talk to Nate about it, and he said if we don't fund it this year and we don't do it, it's theoretically going to be close to twice as much next year.
Yeah, it's going to be more volume, and we have a lot of brush come in there, more than I've ever seen in any town. We shouldn't have a tree left standing in this town. There's a lot, or the two towns, there's a lot of brush comes in there. So, and obviously I know the guys check, and it's people that have a right to bring it in. So,
OJ, in the water budget, number 17, I did talk to Nate about it, and he has on the second page there, in general repairs and equipment, he's got 40,000.
Mm-hmm.
He said he could tighten his belt and get away with 30,000 this year, but that wouldn't stay 30,000 every year.
yeah, because, and I know Nate has said that, and I think it's great, but
Right.
if one valve, one of those major valves up there go, or a pump, it's fit, that we didn't expect. It's minimum by 40 to 50,000 bucks potentially. And so,
Well, those can also be funded out of his CIP funds if he had to, and that's what
yep, we can look at that. I mean,
he said he could get away with it 1 year, but it's not something that he would be comfortable with reducing every year.
right. So that would more than,
So
that's probably we're in pretty good shape up there. So that's probably a safer.
I'd rather see the 10 come out of there than the 11 or whatever out of solid waste. Because he said if there was a huge major issue, a pump or a expensive thing, that could come out of CIP if he had to. Which, you knock on wood and hope that doesn't happen, but.
He made that pitch to me and I rejected it. So that's good for conversation. So.
Right.
How about this? Both of those budgets that we're talking about, solid waste and water, are under the control of Nate, Public Works.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable taking it out of either budget. If we do the grinder, or if he does, needs to bring the grinder in, that, as you said, won't be till later this fall.
Yep.
So, I think Nate could look at his budget at the end of the summer and decide, did we have a major expense in water? Do we anticipate anything? And do it either way. And again, we as the board can have one budget overspent and one budget underspent without a problem.
I hesitate
Right.
to make that decision about that tub grinder without the Woodstock selectmen. We've had meetings with the Woodstock selectmen where brush collecting and disposing of and burning and not burning and grinding and not grinding has been the topic of discussion often. I hate to say, well, we're just going to cut it out of our budget because we don't think we need to do it without getting their input. I'm not comfortable.
Okay. What if we left the solid waste budget alone,
Mhm,
took 10 out of water?
mhm.
Yeah, I'd
If
prefer you
Nate-
go. Yeah.
If Nate gets to September and realizes the 10 out of the water is going to be a problem, bring it to the board and we can talk about delaying the tub grinder or taking money out of CIP to address a water repair maintenance issue.
Right. Yes, I'm more comfortable with that.
Jack, what are your thoughts?
I agree. That sounds like a good idea. Let Nate decide where he can roll the money into what account to take care of whatever needs he has.
The only thing we have to do, guy, is we have to, for Jonna's reporting, we have to make these cuts from a line. So that, and on her form that she
Right.
files with DRA, so we can't leave it in limbo. So what I'm hearing is we're gonna make the deduction out of the 40,000, that line in the water
Water, yeah.
to
Yep.
show it there. And Nate and I'll understand that as we get closer, we could, okay. It just for the filing, they need to be clear of how we justified the new bottom line number. That's all.
Absolutely. So then that leaves our total to 200,500. I'd
Yep.
love to put welfare up to 5,500 and keep our bottom line at exactly 200,000. How do you feel about that?
Okay, so the cut from welfare would be 4,500.
Correct.
Rather than 5,000. That'll be
Yeah.
the extra 5 and it'd come out to even 200,000.
Exactly. So, in the executive budget, I just want to make sure I have my notes right. The executive budget, you have 13,000, which reflects the iPads. The library is 8,000 off the bottom. I don't know if they have to specify that that's half the cleaning budget or not.
Oh,
Welfare, you're taking 4,500 out. Town building is 10,000, and that's half of the AC units, right?
Mhm.
Yep, we'll do 1 unit this year instead of 2. Yep.
Recreation was 10,000. I know 2,500 of that was van rental and the rest was winter wages.
Savings the winter wage savings that she.
Correct.
It
Wait,
was,
just-
Tammy, it was 8,800 and then 2,000. She had 10,800. She didn't have 2,500 off her van rentals, just
Okay.
2,000.
So do 2,000 off van rentals and then 8,000 off wages to keep the numbers even. Don't do 88, just do 8,000.
Can I just comment on that?
Absolutely.
That's another budget that we share and discuss with Woodstock.
Mhm.
But whether we vote on it or not, the winter hiring is done.
Correct.
We've already saved that money.
Correct.
And the van rental is because the deposit from last year is being applied to this year. So we've already saved that money. So no matter what we do, that money's not being spent. So we don't need to discuss this with them, although we can mention it to them that this is the case.
Agreed. Yeah, exactly. Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah.
And then in the planning budget, it was 8,000 for iPads. Legal, 70,000. I don't think it matters where we take that out of, but it's not really specified in different cases, is it?
No, it'll just
Is
be
that
the
general legal?
That's right.
70, yeah, it will just show that we can, if they want us to divide it up, we'll divide it up amongst the cases that we got, but it's,
I just think that a general legal,
Reduce the legal bottom line by
Right, bottom line.
right.
bottom line and.
And then 2,500 off of the holiday party. 14,000 out of fire, and that is 2,000 in firefighter wages, 6,400 in training wages, 4,600 bunker gear, because the stuff that was ordered last year due to COVID we just received it recently, and then 1,000 off of their boots budget. And then personnel is 6,000 out under the insurance rates.
Yep,
That's
the health insurance. We have indications from Primex, our liability, that the
right, I saw that,
the
yeah.
not to exceed could be down, but they won't know until June or July, I think is when they
And
set.
then I think I'm missing one, OJ. What one am I missing?
Police, 44,000.
Thank you. And what line items in the police budget is that out of?
The
That's gonna be-
police is split. The police, out of the police budget, is only gonna be 250 from the wages. The rest is out of personnel. That's the 19 that makes up the 44.
Okay, gotcha. Oh, so the 19 comes out of personnel,
That's
25.
from the police department.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
And I'm sorry, can you run down through this? I didn't get it all because I just barely got home from work.
Thank you. Are you ready now?
Yeah,
All right. 13,000 out of the executive budget, and that's for the iPads.
yep,
Library is $8,000 even, and that's, reflects roughly half the cleaning budget, but I think we just have to come off the top. I mean, the
Okay.
bottom.
yep,
The welfare budget, 4,500 out of that.
okay,
The water budget, 10,000 off the equipment.
yep,
Second page.
Yep.
Town building, 10,000, and that's half of what's budgeted for AC units.
yep,
Rec department, and even 10,000.
yep,
Planning, 8,000 iPads.
yep,
Legal, 70,000, general legal.
70 even,
Yes, ma'am.
okay.
2,500 out of the holiday party.
Okay, so that makes the executive 15,500,
Okay.
okay,
14,000 out of fire department, and I'll go over that again.
yeah,
2,000 out of firefighter wages
yep,
and 6,400 out of training wages.
okay,
4,600 bunker gear
yep,
and 1,000 boots.
and that's 14,000,
Yes, ma'am. Should be. if
okay,
My math is right.
okay,
And then 6,000 out of personnel for the insurance rates, and you have the PD and personnel.
so personnel, we're adding another 6,000, and I'm sorry, what was that for?
Anticipated savings on insurance,
The health insurance.
health
reduction.
insurance. Thank you.
So you think we're gonna save 6,000?
Across all of the medical insurance rates, yes, based on that letter from Primex with a forecasted
Oh, that's from Health Trust that we just came
Sorry.
in today. Yep,
health trust. They forecasted, I think, a 4.5% increase in its,
a
And
decrease.
we had gone up 6, is that, I don't have all that with me, let me see.
it's based on the decrease that estimate that we got from Health Trust.
Yep,
And I don't have that in front of me either, but it's just an estimate.
Okay, so that 1.5% we're saying is 6,000?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, I'll take a look at that.
And we had $13,050 budgeted for the iPads for the budget committee. I think we take all of that. Don't leave $50 in there.
Well, that's why I took the 15,550. I don't know if you guys got the sheet I did,
I did, yeah.
like right at 5 o'clock.
I
So do you
don't-
want that 15,550 to stay?
yes. If that includes the $13,050 for iPad. And I-
Yeah,
sounds like it's-
okay. So that will be 15,550, okay. And
Yeah.
then personnel, you're saying is gonna be 25,000 savings.
No, the police department, right? 25,250?
No, she's talking about personnel is 6,000 for medical insurance and 19,000
19.
from police is 25.
25, okay.
Yep.
All right.
And then
Sounds good.
police,
That's an even 200,000.
Wait, Jonah, did you get the water department?
Yes, 10,000 off equipment.
Okay, all right, I somehow missed.
No,
so
that's okay.
200 grand. Yep.
I think we got it all. I'll redo this and send it to you guys tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jonna.
You're
And
welcome.
I just want to make, just so we bring these up, there's three kind of big items, at least in my opinion, that we are, the three of us have been made aware of. One is the new employee that's going to be between the fire department and code enforcement. One is the 3% raise for all employees, and
Isn't
one
it
is
also
the,
gonna be Public Works?
what's that?
That employee also gonna work Public Works?
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
A small
Fire-
portion, but yeah.
Yes, in Public Works.
Thank you.
That employee, the 3% employee raise across the board, and the suggested cut in the ambulance budget, I consider three major things that came to us in an email from Paul, that people in the town were using those as ideas or reasons for wanting to cut the $200,000 out of the budget. I just wanted to bring that up so it's in the minutes that we acknowledged that.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to ask if there's any selectman who wants to take any action on any of those three items.
No, we also got a letter from, email from Dave Tauber and Meg Hassey from the
Yes,
Linwood ambulance, asking that we not cut that, and I
Yeah.
thank
Okay,
them.
I just wanted to bring that up because I'm against all three of those. And I guess most especially the ambulance thing. I mean, for what we get, it's just amazing. We've talked about this numerous times, but
Yeah, and I just
That's
think
crazy talk.
I know I heard it today, is that the ambulance, as personnel were getting reimbursed through the federal funds for their, but I think it goes beyond that. And you just hit it, that David and his troops went out of the way to organize it, and a lot of those, majority of those hours were not refundable through the Save America Act, or whatever we're calling it now. So I just put that in the record. I think that's a good choice not to cut that. And it was suggested in my a 10%, it was on my list there, but I don't think that, I think it worked out better.
And I want to point out too, that I didn't want to cut the ambulance. That wasn't at all even anywhere near my intention. I just went with 10% off of the health appropriations budget. It wasn't by any means did I target anybody or say, oh, the ambulance doesn't need it, because I don't feel that way at all. I think they are extremely essential, and we're lucky to have them.
And I also
absolutely.
want to say that Carol Riley came in and said that the library trustees supported the cut. And I thought that takes mention from you guys too, so.
Oh,
Fantastic.
I'm
We-
glad you brought that up. That's to me, that's a very positive thing to hear, because
Absolutely.
Every department looks at their budget and doesn't want to do it, but for them to come forward like that, that's commendable. So
I agree.
thank them.
Yeah.
All right, are we all set with the budget? Oh, we should probably
No.
do that. Oh, no?
No, sorry. The total is $200,300. So I just want to know where you want me to take the 300 off of
Do you
or
mean
put
add it
back.
to? Put it back in welfare.
Yeah,
Okay,
yep, put it in welfare, yep.
okay,
It will only take 4,200 out of welfare instead of 45.
okay.
Do you, Jack and OJ agree?
Yeah, but where did you get that? When my figures added up to an even 200,000 with the 4,500 in there.
I have 15,550 for executive.
Okay, and that's, wait,
70,000,
wait, that's the $13,050, right, for computers?
1350 and 2,500 for the holiday party.
Holiday party.
Yep.
And Jack, does that make your numbers add up yet?
No, I have those in there still too. I've got 13,000 for the iPad, 8,000 for the library, 4,500 for, what was it, welfare?
Welfare,
Yeah, 10,000 for water, 10,000 for the town rec, 10,000 for something else.
town building,
Yep, town building, 8,000, 70,000,
Yep.
2,500 for the
Yep.
holiday party, 14,000 for fire, 44 for the police, and 6,000. What was the last one? Oh,
It's
for
not-
the insurance deduction, the insurance
okay, the
reduction.
police, we're dividing up 25,250 is the labor savings in the police department. And then 19,000 is the related savings in the personnel budget.
So that would be 44,250. So that would be the $2,250 that Jonna has. So we're gonna take 250 somewhere and stick it back into, or just,
It
I'm
was
sorry, we're just gonna
300.
reduce welfare by 4,250 rather than 4,500.
Welfare will reduce by 42. And then those computers, instead of being 13,000, are 13,050.
Okay,
Yeah, so
all right,
it's your 200,000.
So that's
Yep.
exactly 200
all right,
bottom line.
got
All
it.
right, I'll make a motion
Go
of
ahead.
those reductions in the budget.
I'll second.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor?
All right,
Aye. All right,
Thank you.
Jonna, thank you for your help with this. And
You're
I will
welcome.
I will be in tomorrow to sign stuff. I
Perfect.
was not able to get in before that. I am on the mediation with Y Birch tomorrow morning at 9, and the Zoom meeting was scheduled from 9 to 4. If it takes that long, I'll be coming in tears.
Yeah.
If it takes that long, we'll see you on Wednesday.
Maybe that's the case.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Jonna.
You're welcome.
Okay, Butch, did you have,
I just wanted to say, I've got my calendar blocked out for that too. I don't, since we had our meeting here, I don't know if you want me there or not. It's up to you.
Let's
I've got my
talk-
calendar blocked out, so,
well, let's talk about that in non-public when we,
okay, yeah.
because we have another litigation issues to talk about too.
Yeah.
All right, so the budget session we're good with. Let's go to approval of the meeting minutes. Are there any changes from
I had nothing.
Jack?
no,
I was good.
I'll make a motion to approve them.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye. Good job, Jane.
Thank you, Jane. All right, review and approve, I'm sorry, the 2021 Board of Selectmen's goals. Everybody got our goals from last year. We can look at those, from last year and then add, subtract, and make a list for this year coming up.
What is the status of the ponds at the Pines at Forest Ridge?
They have been, they've been fixed and built according to the new approved design, both by DES and the planning board. Although it's not been finalized yet because it was done too late in the winter season to be like seeded. So there's a couple of outstanding issues, but the construction of them, I believe, is done. Ron, did you have any other updates to add to that?
Yeah, actually, I checked on them this morning at daylight, and it appears that they're draining properly. It's maintaining a level to the 4-inch pipe, the exit pipe from the lower area there. And it was good to see that that didn't fail during the winter with ice and everything else. But yeah, he still has some items to wrap up on the construction of that, you know, with the seating and all that stuff, and the guardrail or whatever that they're going to put around the roadside there. But it is performing well so far. We'll see what happens during the spring runoff. But so far, so good.
My suggestion with that, Tammy, is that doesn't need to be a selectman's goal or priority. At this point, that problem has been solved. It just needs some follow-up work, follow-up enforcement, and that can be code enforcement.
Keep it on Ron's goal list and take it off of ours.
Well,
Okay,
that's all good. If you want to develop a list for me, that's fine with me.
I was kidding.
I get it.
All right. Do you want to look at last year's goals first and see what we want to keep, add, or change, and then I know I get some things I want to add.
I'd like to
Yeah.
get your opinion on water meters and water rates.
We can take those off.
I don't want to. However, the town voted to not bond water meters. I still think it's important for us to have, that we're losing out on a lot of potential free money because we don't have water meters. However, I feel like a jerk pushing it down people's throats when they voted that they don't want it. How do you feel?
I feel like the town rejected it, and not to say that we'll never bring it up again, but I don't think it's a goal for this year,
Okay.
in my opinion. Jack?
Well, I'm trying to do a little behind the scenes maneuvering here, in the sense that we hear the term today, hybrid. I'm looking at potentially bringing forth something to the board of select persons when I can get everything together, so that there would be a flat fee to residential homeowners of $100. And I've asked today to see if I can get a copy of all the businesses in town and look at the model that Raftellus put in their proposal to start with the businesses. And then once we get the money coming in, we can decide if we can possibly fund water meters down the road. Like Tammy said, it's not, or you just said, it's not today's goal. But I did, last week I brought up the fact, and I know it's later on in Butch's presentation, that the feds are coming out with, money in this stimulus package. And I saw that New Hampshire is receiving $122 million for capital improvement projects. So I called today to the Office of Economic Development, and I spoke with two people. You know these people better than I do. I'm just learning of their names. Mr. Lamontagne, Bino Lamontagne. And then he knows you, Butch, right? And he said, Jack, he said, there's money there. He says, we haven't come out with the way it can be funded. And I told him what one of the big issues up here, economic development, is, can we sustain future jobs without the infrastructure to support hotels, et cetera, buildings? And he said, you could apply, and you folks, again, the Northern Regional Commission, and get matching grant. And you can now, he said, use the federal stimulus funds to use money to match it. So consequently, nothing is coming out of the town's pockets. Again, this is all, pie in the sky at this point in time, but at least, it's given me something to do. And, I'll present something once I figure it out. I've talked to other people about this, and, they've had questions. Somebody said, hey, somebody I just talked with Saturday, I guess. And this gentleman, an accountant, was a partner in a big one of the major accounting firms. And he said, Jack, when you start doing that though, when you flat charge for water, people can't take it out of their taxes because it's not deductible like a real estate tax is. So I hadn't even thought of it from that aspect. I mean, $100 is $100. But again, I mean, that would be one of my goals, to vet this as best we can, or I can, and come up with something that the board can support, the town might support, and go from there. But it wouldn't require at this point in time any bonding issues that would have to come before the public.
I mean, I would definitely be open to having that discussion, and I appreciate you putting in this background work before you bring it forward. So I guess I'd leave this on the at least on our agenda. I don't know if we call it a goal or an agenda item, but let's leave it on the goal list.
It's one of my goals to get it before you. So
Okay.
let it go at
I
that.
think if I can chime in, OJ, I think
Yep.
it's a good idea because while it didn't get voted this year, I think it's an issue that's going to be on the town's radar for time to come. I mean, I think we're not going to be able to just ignore it and go away. I think so. It'd be good for the board to keep it as an agenda item, and but that I have some stuff a little more. I can expand a little bit more on the stuff I've been able to find out about that stimulus money when and if it ever comes in. And Bino was right. This money has to go directly to towns and cities, not through the state,
Mhm.
which has a few noses bent sideways in Concord, but that's fine. So it'll be a foot race, and it don't have to be shovel-ready projects. I've already got our storage tank issues, and the immediate thing is the expansion of our water system for fire protection. But we also ought to look at this chunk of money to look at maybe what is the future of our sewer system and what would an upgrade look like. And maybe we tap in and see if we can get some monies to do that, have shovel-ready engineering ready, even if it's 10 to 15 years out, 10, whatever. Because this is a chunk of money that's coming. It's going. You already heard that Manchester somehow has already tapped for 40 million of it,
40 million, yeah.
and that amazes me how that happened. Nevertheless, it did, and so yeah, it's so Jack's right on point. I mean, the fact that you can use it as the stimulus money as the matching part of Northern Borders Grant, which is a whole separate revenue stream, is amazing. So.
All right,
And
well,
like
let's leave
like-
that on the goal list for sure.
Okay.
I was just going to comment, like Butch said too. I mean, they've increased the Northern Borders regional grants to $1 million from 500,000 now. And so, if, like you said, if you could get the engineering aspect done with a grant, and then look, and the state last time received 1.1 billion. This go around, they're getting 1.8 billion. So the money's there, and if we can apply for it, great.
All right, the next is the sewer issues, capacity and growth, sewer upgrades and funding. I see no reason to take that off the list. That
Nope.
to me is a total ongoing thing. All right, next is the village loon water pipe to the tank feeding Coolidge Falls and Clearbrook.
I'd like you to keep that on.
Okay.
because that is, I've been notified just in the last week. The Coolidge or the Clearbrook or the tank up there, as well as the South Feed tank are on Weston and Sampson's radar. And they're looking into it. And so an upgrade of a tank in that zone would require a new line being run up to it to feed it, separate feed. So if you keep that on your list, I think be a wise thing to do.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely want to do that because, you know, the long-term solution to that, to the way that that's piped is not our water tank being at the end of a private water system that we have no control over.
Right.
So let's leave that on the list.
Yep.
Work on obtaining written agreements from the privately owned redistribution water systems that are in town. I don't know as if we've made any progress on that, but probably should stay on the list.
I think it should stay on the list. I mean, this year we got totally torpedoed as, you know, that didn't, although it's sort of being addressed partially with this Weston Sampson work that's going on right now. That new line up into Coolidge has a lot to do with this isolating the town's responsibilities from a private system. So, yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, process and timeline to resolve water pressure issues. Adding addition to the South Peak tank, an additional tank at a new location. We've made good progress on that.
Yep. I think it still should stay on.
Still should stay on. All right.
That's me. I'm not on the board, so I'm kind of, but I'm thinking you might want to keep that on your radar.
Is that all right? All right, crosswalks.
We're actively moving forward. We're gonna do 2 more RFFs this year. That's in the CIP and the highway safety grants for that. So that's an area that I told Nate we weren't going, well, we couldn't touch anyway because of CIP, it wasn't operating budget. So we have 2 more sidewalks that are gonna be lighted this summer. And that's the plan, 2 a year until they're done. Yep.
And where
Okay.
are those going to be this summer, Butch? Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
don't know which ones, Jack, but I think Nate has a list that came in from DOT of what their preference was, so we're kind of following that. So the ones that are there now were the high priority, and so that's the way they're being decided. Yep.
Tamara?
You're muted, Tammy.
Only lighting the Main Street crosswalks, right?
Correct.
And there's only 4 left to go, 2 this year, 2 next year,
Next
correct?
year, I believe that's correct. I think a total of 7, 6, 7, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, right. There's 3 that are done. There's 4 that are left to do.
Correct. Yeah, okay.
Just so Jack knows, we had this discussion with DOT because it's a state highway. They control this. You know, they wanted us to do all of the crosswalks with the blinking lights. And through the discussion, we agreed to do that, but over a 3-year period. So we did 3, 2 this year, 2 next year.
Whose obligation is it to maintain them after they're installed?
We are-
Us.
Us. Yeah.
We own
We own them.
We own
Okay.
this. Yeah, the town opted for sidewalks in all those locations, and so all DOT does is sign off with it, and then the responsibility, everything is on the town.
All right. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, next is the parking and Riverfront Park project. We're moving ahead with that, but that needs to stay on the goal list, I assume.
Yes.
All right,
I
next
mean,
is,
we've, I think we've done good enforcement and stuff. I'm not sure if, I think you shot down the fact that parking would ever be expanded. I believe so. I'm not sure if there's anything left. I mean, we have it properly signed. Police.
wait a minute, which,
This is the, Riverfront. Oh, I thought you were talking, excuse me, I'm talking about ladies bathtub. Got it? I didn't. That's a different, okay, Riverfront parking. We're waiting for the, it's into the feds now. We're on the list to get federal funds for the cleanup. I think that should stay on your list simply because it's an ongoing project.
Great.
all right, the Kank Rec area parking. This was on the list, looking at various possibilities. One is to pave the parking lot at the Kank. Another is to expand the parking area at the Kank, either on the slope side where it is now, by filling in sort of the middle area and adding additional parking, or going across the street to the piece of land that's part of the Kank Rec area over there and turning that into parking, or doing both.
Well, I don't think it's either or. I think that the Kank Rec parking lot needs to be repaved sooner rather than later, and it needs to be expanded. I don't, that's not really an either or.
No, but the expansion could take place on the side that it's on now, various ways, or across the street. And the chicken and the egg scenario is that we don't want to pave the parking lot and then expand it on the same side and then have new and old pavement butting up against each other.
I thought Nate weighed in on expanding it on the existing side with all that drainage, and the amount of money it would take to, because there's a big swale in there that eats a lot of drainage.
Drainage, right.
Well,
To
it's
Fill
key
that in,
drainage.
and then the mitigation on that, if we were to fill it in, was not going to be cheap versus expanding that parking lot on the other side of the road and filling up that pie-shaped piece, even if it's just a dirt parking lot for overflow and such. I know we've talked about it.
Yeah, we got to remember the swale on the Kank side handles drainage from Forest Ridge Road. It comes all the way down from,
Right.
so it's gonna have to be properly sized culvert or some sort of, if we did any packing on top of that, then there's a safety issue with, Ray Corbett had some cautionary comments on it, but nothing's been done officially. It's all been, so we've never really moved, other than we had our property surveyed somewhat, and that, which included mostly on the other side of the road, but I know there was a suggestion to do away with the sliding hill and extending the parking lot out to where the sliding hill ends now, and there was something else. So there's several, but we've moved beyond that. So if you
Right.
guys still want this to talk about this, then we should certainly keep it on your goal so we don't forget about it. That's, yeah.
I thought we already moved beyond using that drainage area for parking. We with a short conversation with Nate and with Ray, without spending the money on engineering, we're told that it was going to be way,
I think you're right. I'm just saying,
yeah.
I didn't think it was off the table. It was just a comment. It was just comments that it's not going to come without a cost. Anything can be done if you're willing to pay for it,
Right, and I thought it was off the
Right.
table because we just need overflow parking. We don't need to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to mitigate this drainage for overflow parking.
Well, again, I don't know.
Wait.
Thousands.
We're not here to solve the problem. We're here to
Right.
set goals, all right? We need to decide where the expansion is gonna be. Tammy, I mean, and Butch, I agree with you both. We've talked about it, but we've made no, I don't think final decisions. Other things we've talked about is planting shade, I don't call them shade trees, but
Evergreens, like,
evergreen trees along the back perimeter of the land at this point, in anticipation of possibly doing something with parking on that side, so that there's just blockage over on that side for lights and stuff. We've heard proposals about moving the sledding hill. We've had, I think all of us have had individual conversations with other people about the problems related to that, but as a board, we've made no decision. So I'd like to leave this on here and have those discussions, or
let's pick a date and make it an agenda item while we're talking about it.
Question,
Middle of April?
Yep.
Oh, Jack,
yeah, go ahead.
question. Is there still a hotel in the works for that area behind there?
For
what?
the, on the corner of Forest Ridge and Main Street?
Yes.
Yes, that's been approved. It's an approved
Okay,
project.
can we hit them with a nice impact fee to do the drainage and offer them sledding when they stay there?
Well, their drainage, Jack, goes across Route 3 and down into, behind the levee. So their drainage, for the most part, doesn't affect
No,
that.
no, I would understand that, which would go with the flow of gravity. But what I'm saying is, you have the right to hit them with an impact fee, and that impact fee could be utilized possibly for recreation. Something to think about.
Not within our current impact fee schedule.
Well, I think the impact, first of all, the impact fee we have in place in town now is based on the number of bedroom units, and they'll be paying that.
Okay,
I think any specific impact fee has to be related to an impact that particular project has on town infrastructure. So if they were impacting, the fire department,
Yep.
you could charge for that, but
Well, they are impacting our sewer, and there's about a 30 or 40 foot section of sewer line on Main Street right across from Town Hall by Flapjacks, that they're gonna have to increase the size of. It's actually next down, and they're working with the DOT to make that change. That's an impact fee that they have to do if they want to sign on. So to what OJ was saying, it's specific to them. They cannot tie on until that change is made, and they're going to do it. They're working with DOT on permits and schedule and things like that. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
All right. Thank you.
So can we put this on as an agenda item next month?
sure,
The 12th or the 19th?
let's do it on the 12th.
Sure.
Is town hall gonna be open then?
We're going to talk about that, aren't we? I am. Well, do you want to move to that right now? What-
No.
No, get through OJ's list.
Let's go
Okay.
through the list here.
Well, it's the selectmen's list. It's not just OJ. We won't put it all on him.
Thank you.
Although I'd like to, but we
Well, you
won't.
need somebody to blame, you know that,
There
Tammy.
we go.
I always,
Flows upwards. Blame always flows upwards.
wait, no, you're the new guy.
yeah.
It doesn't flow down.
All right, next on the list is workforce housing.
I think we need to leave that on there because it's still something that the town really needs.
Yeah, but what, does it need to be a goal of the Board of Selectmen? Or is that something that the planning board should take up and make decisions on? And I mean, what are we gonna do about it?
That's a really good question.
I
I
can't
think
raise,
it's-
I can't raise my hand. I think as I reflect back is, let's face it, a board of selectmen carry a lot of weight. And I think that as a board, if you felt that it's an issue that the town has to deal with, if it's nothing more than that, it shows, I don't know, cohesiveness, or that, the managers of the town feel that it's an important aspect that we should at some point deal with. If not, then it would be not a goal. And that's my 2 cents. And other than that, but as I remember, that's why it was put on, I think, a couple years ago now.
I think it's still a need in the town of Lincoln and we should keep that on our goals list.
Where is they had as far as their project in Woodstock?
Jack, I have not heard. I know something got approved, but I don't know where they're at. I really don't.
Another board that I sit on, we gave them 15,000 towards the project.
I'm not sure what the status is.
I'll give Judy a call this week and find out and let you guys know next week.
All right, want to leave it on the list for now?
Sure.
All right, we talked about the Forest Ridge retention pond. Can we take that off and leave that as a
Yeah,
staff follow-up?
Put
Just
that on
like
Ron's
any
list.
other enforcement issue?
we're on.
Obtaining viable members to join town committees. I guess I want to leave that on the list, but change it to specifically add the building committee, not that we need to, we have members for that, but to I guess encourage the building committee or lead, I should say, lead the building committee to set meetings and start meeting to talk about the future of the town
do-
building.
We're
We have-
doing,
What's that?
There's a
We're doing
meeting
that.
tomorrow.
We have another one tomorrow, I believe.
Is
we
it
had,
tomorrow?
this will
Tomorrow
be
at
our
4
third one,
o'clock.
I believe. Yep. I think it's our third one, Tammy, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the meeting is tomorrow at 4, I think.
tomorrow at 4, correct.
Yep.
All right. Then you want to
Yeah.
just leave that agenda item on as is?
I think so, because it's not just the building committee, it's, I mean, we had blank spots for our budget committee, we had blank spots for trustees of the trust funds. Go ahead, what'd you say? I didn't hear you.
I was gonna say, we have one empty planning board alternate spot that has not been filled.
ZBA has, look, it need members, so
Okay. Trustee of trust funds. What do we have? 2 members right now?
I believe
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, I
Herb
think-
Gardner
I think-
and Gene Bowden,
right.
Yeah, Gene Bowden and
Herb.
Dr. Herb.
yeah, Dr. Herb.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty important one to find a third person for.
Now, the planning board finds their own people, right? They vote their own on,
Yeah,
that isn't appointed by the selectmen,
right. Right. And same with the budget committee.
right?
And the ZBA.
So, yeah, it's not our job to appoint them, but we certainly can participate in
Finding candidate, yeah.
spreading the news that they're available. And maybe
And
we
I
should,
would reach out to the chairs of those committees too and encourage them to, recruit some members, especially Jean Bowden. She's fantastic. And maybe Butch, you could reach out to Jean and see if she has any ideas or thoughts on someone that we could
Yeah,
talk in.
I'm sure they're aware of it. And if they had suggestions for us, for the board, that would be great. Yep.
Yeah.
I'll do that. I'll reach out to Gene. Yep.
okay, how about if we put something on the town website? Now the town meeting's over, that says, the town is looking for members to join the following boards, and put planning board alternate, budget committee, whatever, however many openings there are, and trustee of trust funds.
Mhm. And Facebook as well. Facebook is a good.
Facebook.
way to
And
try
then if we get any responses, we'll funnel them to the planning board, the budget committee, or us to discuss.
Good idea.
By the way, if I may interject, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
If you remember last meeting, there was some discussion about my being elected to 2 different positions.
Yeah.
And I spoke to my personal attorney about it. And he said, geez, Jack, let me do some research. He's a Massachusetts attorney, but he's familiar with New Hampshire law. So he did some work with the RSAs. He said, you don't have to resign, Jack. So he said, why don't you talk to New Hampshire Municipal Association and get a written legal opinion, which I did do. And I was in Butch's office last week, and I'll forward it to you. But it says I do not have to resign from the ZBA. I may have to at different times recuse myself if, the board, i.e. the Board of Selectmen, has made a decision and it would come to the ZBA for an appeal. So at that point in time, I would have to recuse myself. But I think in the 5 years that I've been on there, or how many years, I really don't remember. It's been so much fun that, I have not seen anything come down from you folks. It's always been, just things. So I'll send you that, and I apologize for not sending it earlier.
Now, I remember when I was the selectmen's representative for the ex officio for the ZBA, we were advised by, it was NHMA at the time. Now it's, it was the LGC at the time. Now it's NHMA. But we were advised by them to not have a selectman on the ZBA.
maybe a selectman's rep, but that's different, obviously, than somebody being elected to the position.
Right, but you're still a selectman.
Yep.
Just because you're an elected ZBA member doesn't mean you're not a selectman sitting on the ZBA. So I would just, I don't know. We
I'll
were
send you,
advised
the-
not to,
I'll send
so-
you the opinion.
If he is,
Right, but-
I'd like to see the opinion, because I,
Well, they didn't tell us that we couldn't. They just advised us not to.
right, but this is the same entity giving an opinion on that.
Mhm.
You know, I guess I personally don't have a problem with it. Number one, as Jack said, it's very rare that
Right,
setup, and if it does occur, he'll pretty much be bound to recuse himself
Absolutely.
if it's a selectman's issue that the ZBA is hearing. he
but
can-
that wasn't why. It was why because after the ZBA, if there's still an issue, then it comes to us.
And then he can recuse himself from the Board of Selectmen on that particular issue if it's a voting issue that we're making a voting decision on.
Yeah, it just sets us up for legal issues that might be easier to avoid, but
I just think,
Yeah.
I've actually seen this in Thornton when I was there as on the Board of Selectmen. I think the issue is if that scenario occurred and then the two remaining selectmen were split on a vote to whatever the issue was, unless you've appointed a former selectman to fill in on that issue alone, and it does create more work, but Jack's right. He certainly has a right to do it. It's,
Right.
yeah, so,
The townspeople elected me, so.
yeah,
I said-
exactly.
right, it's your
I
choice,
think-
you're right, it sets us up for potential messy, and yeah, that's why I stepped down and wasn't on the ZBA anymore for that reason, so I thought it was in the best interest of the town for me not to do that.
I think there's risks in any decision or procedure we make. I think Jack's presence on the ZBA is a benefit to the town and is actually a benefit to the Board of Selectmen. I think it reduces the risks. Just because I think he has a good head and will, at least his vote will help the ZBA make good decisions. We haven't seen one come before the board. If we do, we deal with it. That's how I feel.
Thank
But
you.
I'll read the NHMA opinion.
I just
letter.
sent it to three of us, so you've got
Okay.
it.
And I
We can-
don't disagree with you that Jack is a great voice on any board that he's on, not just the ZBA, but you were on the
Thank you.
budget committee and you're an asset to all of those boards. I just remember the workshop that they were there at Town Hall. That was a workshop that it was the LGC then did at Town Hall and advised us not to do it. And they had very compelling arguments as to why not. So not to say that we couldn't, because legally we could and it was fine, but they advised us to not do that. So that's all.
All right. We can talk about that after we read the letter from NHMA.
Yep.
At our next meeting.
So the last thing on our goals is short-term rentals. I think we should leave that on there.
Yeah, and I've got an update in my town manager's report tonight on some things. I don't know if it was Tammy or somebody asked me to check on, so. I did.
Okay, you said you had more things to add to goals.
My thing was the building committee. We already talked about that. And it was, I guess, it's kind of covered in here to resolve the water pressure issues. I was looking at the PRV, the
Yeah.
high pressure zone, and the Weston and Sampson study on the water tank, but I guess all three of those are encapsulated in that the process and timeline to resolve water pressure issues. So those are the things I was looking at.
And
So the
I've
only
got,
thing we're taking
I have an
off-
update on that as well tonight, so.
Okay.
The only thing we're taking off at this time is the pines at Forest Ridge. Jack, did you have anything to add?
I did not. Thank you, Tammy.
OJ, last year we put them in order of priority. Do you want to do that again? We had water meters and rates first. I think we should move those to last.
I don't think we need, I don't know.
We did prioritize them. So did you want to prioritize them again? I think if we move them to last, everything else could stay the same.
I don't know. I think it's a changing, like short-term rentals. We're going to talk about that tonight at tonight's meeting.
Mhm.
If that's really last on our agenda, we shouldn't talk about it tonight. We should focus on what's up top. I'd almost rather leave it
Just leave it.
free flow, like all of these are, but you know what I think we should do is we tend to go almost a full year before we relook at our goals and say, oh, we've been working, I think we've worked on almost all of these.
How about we recap once a month? How about the last Monday of every month, we'll go over our board goals? What do you think?
I think it should definitely be more than once a year, whether it's every month or every 2 months.
We'll look at them once a month, even if it's not just to read through them and remind us what they are. So the last Monday of every month, we'll put that as an agenda item.
Okay,
Is Jane
Jack.
on? He is on.
Jack.
I would suggest that we don't prioritize them, but rather as one issue comes to the forefront at any given time, something major could happen with the water tanks or with this, and then we bring it forward. So like you said, let it free flow down and who knows where it falls.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think that might be more manageable for you guys. I mean, if we could spend half, 3/4 of an hour trying to, every once a month, trying to put them in order, and that'd be crazy. So.
Yeah. And I think by bringing them up once a month, we will force ourselves to, I mean, we've almost discussed each one of these as we went along. We didn't just say yes or no to leave them on the list. We kind of discussed them. And if we do that once a month, we could prod ourselves into saying, okay, we need to take this step or whatever, make a phone call, have a meeting, whatever. All right. So we'll do that once a month, the last meeting of each month.
Perfect.
Any other discussion on our goals? All right. Let's move on to town manager's report.
Okay, the code compliance issues, with, the Granicus, I talked with Samantha White today. She late this afternoon was able to send me a proposal. The answer to the question is their fees are based on what they've identified as short-term rentals in the Lincoln. What she's proposing to her bosses, for a better word, is a funding mechanism where the top three, the three items that I had put in my original letter to you folks that I wanted to do is to grab for their suite of services, which would be address identification. I don't have them in front of me, but anyway, the 31,000 total is what that three costs added up to. What she was going to propose is that working with our current 260 some odd that we have voluntarily registered with at $50. And then she was going to recommend a 6-month holiday on any fees, at which time they would be actively getting letters out. If we sign a contract, they would get letters out, and to get returns. She is highly suggesting, and she's willing to come on as early as next week if you wanted, in Zoom, and actually answer your questions directly. But one thing she did note was that we are woefully under charging for our permits, where the average at 221 or 225, so whatever that number was.
221, yeah.
221, she said that is a minimum. She will tell you that she personally has a short-term rental away from her business, and her fee, whatever community it is, she's on the east, she does reside on the East Coast somewhere. her fee is $600 a year. And it's one night, one night's rental for her facility. So she is, so she would tell you that, but she could answer any questions. They will try to work with us if we were to sign on. And so that we build as monies come in or as people, she gets registrants, but she said at $50, you're not gonna support the program on that program. And most of these folks, with the average 221, it's one night out of a year, or one day's rental, and it's short money. I will just highlight that we just, I think Ron made his final inspection on a home. I can't remember what street it is. Ron can chime in here. But this is a lady who lives out of state. I believe it might be Louisiana. I'm not sure. But she has bought at least one property, if not more, but one property in particular. She bought and has told not only me, but town hall staff that she has no intentions of ever living in Lincoln and probably never visiting Lincoln. It is strictly a business deal. She's ready to start short-term renting that shortly. I think she's waiting for a water meter to be installed, and the price is $1,200 a night. And she has customers waiting. Okay, we are missing the boat, folks. We are missing the boat. And she said it's strictly a business deal. She wants to abide by all the rules, and she was shocked that she was able to do this for $50. So I put it out there. And again, and I think Jack and I talked about it. There's an income stream that would offset this, so it wouldn't have to be taxpayers paying. We got sticking our necks out a bit. But they're averaging through their whole book of business, they're averaging 70% compliance once they get involved. You do the numbers on that, and then with a modest, if we increase the rates, we have more than enough money to pay for their services, and I think it'll come back but I think it would be worthwhile, if you guys agree, that I asked her and she said she'd be willing to do it, is to take a few minutes, whether it's the next meeting or the meeting after, whenever you guys decide, and you can come out and ask her directly any questions you have. So that's my spiel on that.
So go ahead, Jack.
So, I looked at their numbers. They said they've got 800 something unit, 860 units or whatever it was. I'm looking at, for instance, I'll give you a good for instance, and I'll tell you what I'm doing on my own at this point in time. Look at the Mountain Club. Every single unit up there can be divided into two because it's a lock-off. They're getting $100 a night. So to charge them $500 or $600 wouldn't be fair, because then they have to pay the Mountain Club a certain percentage for renting them up if they do it, and or the cleaning fee in some cases. And I've talked with a number of people in my area that rent out their units. And one gentleman in particular is a computer guru. So he said, Jack, you could get somebody to access all of the platforms. And he started, I think he named 7 of them, where, from Airbnb, BBO, TripAdvisor, and all this. So that got me thinking, is there anybody in town that could do it? So I talked to the principal of the school today, Mark, and said, Mark, do you think this is a project that somebody, a class project or Trey, could take on for a minimal fee? He said like 500 or 1,000. He said you could get some whiz kid, and that's what I have in the back of my mind. We can get some whiz kid who wants to make $1,000 and say, okay, here's every platform I've done. Here's what you have, do the spreadsheets for us. Then we start charging a couple $100 a whack if we can get like we said before, maybe 700 units, there's 400, $140,000. Get a certified code compliance officer, someone that's got the actual certification. Let that individual take this whole thing on themselves as far as inspections, as far as code compliance, as far as lease ups. In my previous life, I think I told you, I had 2,000 units of public housing. Every single one of them was inspected annually. And that person got, at that time, I remember, I've been retired too long, 20, because roughly 20 years now. That person then was getting like $65,000 a year. And so again, Butch, I appreciate all the effort you put into this, but I don't know, if we need to go to an outside entity at this point in time. Again, I haven't figured it all out yet. I'm still working on that and the water meters. It's just, not keeping me up at nights, but, I've got papers all over the house thinking about it. And again, it's just Jack's idea. It doesn't mean that, it has to be accepted by the board or by the town or what have you. But I think that we can, put somebody that doesn't put an extra burden on Ron or the new person that's coming on, and that this person would be their bailiwick. They could be a contractual individual, obviously with insurance and the whole bit, and go forward with it. But anyways, that's my spiel. Thank you.
I thank you. That was that's an interesting alternative. I guess my concern here is that we just cut $200,000 out of a budget. If we go with Granicus, we gotta have the discussion, where do we cut out another 30 grand? And I don't know where that number is.
Right.
We can only spend what the town appropriated, and a 6-month delay in billing still keeps us in the 2021 year. And we do not have funds appropriated for this purpose. Could we do something like Jack said and find $1,000 or maybe $2,000? Probably. I mean, I think a budget is a best guess, and we've never been right.
And I'll just, well, you've heard my spiel, so it is what it is, but revenue is all I heard from you guys, and I heard it for months from the budget committee. We are missing the boat, folks. We are really, really missing the boat. And that's all I gotta say. I think Jack and I talked, and I understand where he's coming from, but it takes, we're reinventing the wheel, and I'm not sure, I've heard towns that didn't want any more. We fight for every employee that we want to put on full time, and but I'm excited about it. I mean, I think if it'll fund a full-time employee to concentrate on code enforcement and this issue and all the other stuff, I'm all about it. But we face the same issue. Your town manager can hire people, but I still got to have money in the budget to do it, and so anyway, that's it. There's no, we're beating the horse. So
Well, I mean, is there another 25 grand in the budget that?
no, I concur. I didn't know what she was trying to work with us on is they can't adjust that. Their fees are set by a corporate hierarchy. They have, they're actively tracking 24/7, 60 platforms. And just the ones that are most common are, Craigslist, and which I surprised the heck out of me, but Craigslist is second from the top in short-term rentals. I didn't know that. So, and so I agree, but I'm, I'm not sure, it might take more than a computer whiz kit. That's all I'm thinking. And maybe not, but they were trying to do it with, monies that we had already brought in, which is about 13 grand. And as of April 1st, you got to remember, our ordinance says we have to start enforcing not registering. We can't register if we don't identify. And to the point where we have some very honest folks that have registered, and Granicus is prepared to show us 700 and something more that haven't. So is that fair to the 260 that stepped up? I don't know, but that's all I'm saying.
And Butch, I did go on a couple of the platforms myself the past few days just to see. And, I've identified, and again, I haven't visited every single platform. I think I went on 7, and it was roughly 400 units that I've identified
Yeah. So
myself. I
they're-
mean,
they're
without
700
doing
off
spreadsheets on them.
Yeah. So I think their numbers, well, they pride themselves in their accuracy. They
Oh,
do
yeah.
say that as they get towards town lines, they would have to, once they're into our system, they would, there might be some that they've grabbed from Woodstock, that would drop off. So they admit that, and again, Conway did the address thing for a year, and they're now taking the whole suite of services because it's out of control over there too, and they're trying to handle it. I don't think OJ's point is good. I mean, we missed it at town meeting. It didn't happen, so the cuts come. So this, but I promised to update. I think it was Tammy had asked about how it was. So the fees are based on the 800, and we'll wait a year, and if we want to, we can make a run at it again. And if Jack comes up some other method of doing it that we can fit in the budget, we'll try that too. So
We've got a whiz kid.
there you go. There you go. We'll
You
find
know,
a.
I remember,
Just
remember
knowing
Facebook was developed by whatchamacallit, Mark
Exactly,
Zuckerberg,
exactly.
a dropout of Harvard. So if he can do it at Harvard, we can get somebody to come up to Lincoln.
Okay. Okay, that's it for that.
Again, I think we should follow up on Jack's idea. I mean, we cannot find I don't think at this point anyway, I would be comfortable finding another 25 grand in the budget. Again, let's come September, October, let's look and see. And if there are budgets that we know are going to be underspent, I'd consider having the discussion then. In the meantime, I think Jack's idea, is good. And can we find another $1,000 or $2,000 in the budget? That's realistic.
Yeah, we could do that. So,
I would risk that.
okay. All right, yeah, so let's do that. Just a quick update. I believe I've sent you some stuff from NHMA has established a website to track this stimulus funding for local governments in the millions of dollars and the water and sewer projects. I think some of the stuff we got going on in town in general terms, we definitely will stay on top of it because water and sewer, as well as roads actually were not included. Water and sewer, Senator Shaheen told me on the conference I had, she had a conference, a Zoom meeting with some town and city managers, of which I was one. She made it very clear that there was a lot of effort putting on nationwide water and sewer infrastructure was top of the priority. So I don't think we could be, and they didn't have to be shovel ready. We're going to be well on our way, and so we should be up in the pecking order if we can come up with numbers. So I think that's exciting. Obviously, we don't know what those numbers, as Bino said to Jack, or I think it was Jack or whoever
Yep.
talked, that that hasn't shaken out yet from the governor and council, but it's going to bypass state government. That's what's huge. Towns and cities are going to deal directly with the federal government, which we're used to. We did that with our bridge project and stuff. So I think it's exciting. We'll see. We still have to deal with them. I already talked about Granicus. The water tank study, the update today, up to today is, I gave permission for Weston and Sampson to speak to the US Forest Service. And I think it was DES regarding some questions they had about processes for this placing of tanks. And so they're moving right along, and they're on target to get that second phase report to the town within the times it was mentioned in their contract. So that's good news. A further update, I had conversations with David Yeager last week. And I know Ron had a short meeting today with Steve LaFrance, who is the engineer of record for the South Peak Water and Sewer utilities over there, about the status of the changeover of the valves in the pump station and PRVs, and they are moving full tilt. And he was excited. He told Ron, and I should let Ron describe, but he actually said he was excited that it's taken all these tens of years for people to listen, not only him, but the town, that this should have been done tens of years ago. And so he's excited. So that's happening, and that's good news for the town. That is, that work is going to get done. Thus, we had the planned hotel for the south east West Main Street, down across from that end, down next to Rite Aid. We have been contacted by that developer, and he's said within a month he's going to be back with a new set of plans and stuff for a hotel there based on the progress that he's been monitoring. So it's moving forward. And you probably already know this, but the Kank ski area officially shut down on 3/21. Tara rated it as a great season with 0 complaints, which she said was almost unheard of. Everybody was excited the way the operation ran this year, so that's all good news. And that's all I have for this week, and unless you guys have something. And I'm sorry, I can't, my internet tonight won't support a camera, so.
That's fine. I got a couple of things. Any update on the sewer capacity study Ray is working on or leading on?
I do not have anything on that. And that was project specific though, correct? Oh no, was he looking at our whole? I think he was, I think, and I'll get a more definitive, but I think his thing was such a big question that he thought that development should drive the update that everybody's looking for on that progress. We do not have our new Nifty's permit. Okay, it's still pending. That's every Littleton, Waterville Valley. That permit is like 12 years old, outdated. In other words, we haven't had one for 12 years, over 12 years now. And so it's any time, but we're still in a holding pattern on that. So that's going to drive a lot. In Waterville Valley, I may have mentioned this. I talked with Mark Dakota, town manager out there. Their ammonia levels in their ponds, and they have an advanced wastewater treatment plant to 1973 standards. And it nowhere met the new ammonia levels for discharge. And they're looking at $10 million expansion of that facility in order to deal with that. That was part of the new permit. And unfortunately, or fortunately or unfortunately, depending on what side of the coin you're on, the change in administrations in Washington is going to accelerate the environmental stuff. So
I guess we had talked about that it'd be kind of important for the board and the town in general to know where we're at in the sewer capacity, um,
Up.
taking into account the, not only the amount of sewer currently running through the pipes, but the vested projects. So that, the next thing that comes up before the planning board, should they be approving that? Or should they put the whole town sewer capacity study on whoever's next, just randomly? And if we're gonna do that, like the hospital is coming in this week, are we throwing the whole thing on them? Do we wait till the next, phase of South Peak? Do we wait? I thought we were gonna look at the vested projects and what's lined up and
I thought we had done that, but OJ, I don't know. So why don't I made a note. I'll get with Ray
Alright.
Kruger and ask for a clarification from him. And if we can discuss that next week, we'll do that. That's what I'd like to do, because
okay, then let's do that.
talking over my head. Ron, is there anything, Ron, in the code compliance? Or I saw Nate, well, no, David signed, he wouldn't have sewer, but Ron, as far as the hospital, has there been any talk about a sewer evaluation or anything like that?
No, I don't, excuse me, I don't think so. We did a fire flow assessment, but we didn't do a sewer capacity, but based on what they're projecting for their daily average, it appears to be fairly minimal.
Yeah, that's what I think. I don't think there's an issue there. But let me, OJ, let me check. Let me get Ray to chime in, and I just don't have it in front of me. I don't want to talk over my head here.
Right, that's fine. Let's wait till next week, but have that on the agenda for next week.
Yep.
The other thing I had was the levy. That it seems to me that we got clarification from FEMA on the freeboard elevations.
Yep.
That the shortage of freeboard, shall we say, is restricted entirely to the section of the levy that is not under the control of the town and the 1960 agreement.
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to explain is FEMA doesn't care about what part we're responsible for or other. They look
Right.
at, they're calling that whole,
My comment is without rehashing the whole thing, I think it'd be fair to pass that information on to the owners of the levy. If whatever, 2 years from now, we have a major flood and they come back and they said that we knew that the whole levy met FEMA's qualifications except for the last 100 feet that they were in control of, and they could have fixed that for X number of dollars, and we didn't tell them, whether there can be legal ramifications or not, it's certainly going to make us look bad. I don't see any harm in saying, look, here's our engineer's elevations, here's the FEMA correspondence. If you as owners want to do anything about your 100 feet, and if you as owners want to contact FEMA and go through this process, here's the information they sent us.
yeah, and I think, OJ, just to clarify, I believe the sticking point is going to be if there is going to be if someone's going to ask FEMA to relook at the levy for the flood protection or to get it accredited,
Mhm.
okay, then the town of Lincoln has to ask for a map revision. So if he's a landowner, the town of Lincoln would ask for the map revision. Now, the map revision is just going to come out and they're going to do elevations and stuff. So if that section of the levy hasn't been brought up to standard, then it's, as it is right now, FEMA considers it, the maps that are going to come out, it's going to be a open, whatever, they have a name for it, but it doesn't exist. And and the weak point is that downstream end of the levee, okay? But it's the town of Lincoln that can ask for a map revision at any time, doesn't have to be, but the new maps will be coming out. And basically the FEMA flood maps are gonna show it offering no flood protection, which is an insurance implication. Now, so the question then is, to your point, do the owners fix it? Or does the town of Lincoln fix it? We're right back to square one on that. But in the outcome, whenever we want the map changed, it's the town of Lincoln that has to file for the map revision. That's my understanding. And that's part of that emails with letters from FEMA that I sent to you. You can reread it, but that's what they're saying. So
Okay, I understand all of that. And with that understanding, my thought is we present to the owners
Yep.
the elevations that we have that shows what the shortage, freeboard shortage is to those owners.
Yep.
If they then decide to get estimates on bringing it up to the correct or the sufficient height, and if they then get the permits to do it, and if they then pay for it and meet that standard, all the town has to do is make that application for the letter of map amendment, which is not a complicated process. I mean, I've done that for a piece of property that I owned that was in the floodplain to install a sewer system. Yeah, I had to pay an engineer to do it, but I mean, it's not a difficult process. So the town goes through that, fills out the application, sends it in, and if the owners of that section of the levee have hired an engineer who has done sufficient work, and it becomes FEMA accredited, that means that for zero money and very little effort on the town's behalf, all of those properties can be protected with a FEMA approved levy.
Yep.
We should at least give them the information and the correspondence and the elevations and let them make that decision and not us make it.
And that's basically, if you give me the green light tonight, I mean, it's public info anyway, but I think we could formally send that to all the, private homeowners, condo associations that are downstream and affected by that. And here's the info. They could look it up on their own. It's public record, but I think we'd be well served to forward that to them. So I agree with that.
All right. The other two board members okay with that?
Sounds like a plan.
All
Okay.
right.
All right, we'll do that.
All right. Jack, did you have anything you want to bring up?
No, sir.
Tammy?
No, mine was covered. Thank you.
All right. Then I'll open up for public participation. Go ahead, Paul.
So I have a couple things. Is there any way that you can coordinate on the town's website, the meeting ID for the selectmen's agenda with the agenda that's posted? Because tonight, the
Yeah.
password and the ID code were totally different than there's two different ones.
You're correct. I signed into the wrong meeting and was late for the meeting.
So
I kept signing in and it said that you were having another meeting. So I was waiting and waiting. Come to find out, you're still meeting, but under a different passcode and ID.
We'll
So,
check into that. I don't know what happened. I had the same issue, so we'll check into
all right,
that.
thank you.
Thanks.
So under the ZBA, applicants that people may need to come in there. Carol and I had a discussion, and we're not going to be advertising for anyone yet. We've had one person advertised for the full-time position, and with Jack as well, being on the board. And we still have 2 alternates that are interested. So the board is full at this point. I'm not sure if you were aware of that, but I just wanted to let you know.
Nope, I was not aware of it, but that's good to know. Thank you.
Okay. On the levy, so I guess I'm a little confused. If the Army Corps of Engineers accepted the levy, but yet the FEMA is the Federal Management Bureau that's going to say whether it's in a qualifying event or they're going to give the money out. How does that work together? I mean, because FEMA says that we don't have enough freeboard, but the Army Corps of Engineers says everything's okay. But yet FEMA is going to be the one that kind of qualifies it or says
No.
it's okay for money. No, that's not true.
No,
Can you clarify that for me?
yep. And I know this is confusing because it took me a while to get this. The Army Corps of Engineers, it oversees the levy being brought back to the 1960 standards and has approved that. If there's a qualifying event, it's the Army Corps of Engineers who will come in and do the repairs to the levy, not anything behind the levy or next to the levy. It's just the levy they will fix. So the agreement between the town and the Army Corps is now active so that they're involved with helping us to inspect it every year
Yep.
and participating in any damages. Okay, that's the town and the Army Corps. FEMA, completely separate thing, looks at flood events and flood control. They don't recognize the whole levy. They look at as being just not there or irrelevant because of the last 100 feet don't have enough freeboard according to their models. So they say because it's lacking in that one area, the whole thing isn't relevant. And FEMA is who would come in not to fix the levee, but to deal with any flood damage from properties that are in the flood insurance program that got damaged in the event of a flood.
So would it be fair to say that FEMA would be the ones that say this qualifies as a flood event and the people who were impacted by it, we can release money for it to help them?
Yeah, FEMA would be the ones to say this qualifies as a flood event, and I don't know, I don't want to speak for what they would do or
Right.
wouldn't do.
No, I understand.
But what they wouldn't do is fix the levee, but the
Right.
Army Corps would fix the levee.
Right.
Well, I guess I was just concerned, it
And what
seemed like
happened-
there were 2 governmental agencies that one accepted it and one didn't. And it seemed like there may be someone left out in the end, whether it was people who built upon or around the levee or whether it was a town. Because one said, you're back on track and we've qualified this, that it meets the 1960 standards. And the other one said, well, it doesn't have enough freeboard for the last 100 feet. And is that a way out for them to not help people who are around the levee or the town? And that was my question. I mean, it just seems like there's a gray area there. And I read the whole report, rather long, but I read the whole report and it seems like the town is gonna be paying a lot of money now and in the future to do inspections and maintenance and all of that. I mean, and it just seems like where the town doesn't own the levee or the levee proper, the land, it just seems like, how do we spend, and again, I'm just asking, how do we spend public funds for a purpose we don't own private property, we don't own a levee? How do we do that?
Well, it goes, if I can, OJ,
Yeah,
I think simply, Paul, it's all the stuff that we explained for 4 years for the initial funding. And the crutch was that we're locked into an agreement signed in 1958 by the Board of Selectmen in Lincoln, when there was a thriving paper mill there. And unless we get Congress to reverse that, we are stuck with that in perpetuity. So everything you said is absolutely true. But we had talked about early on in the rehab of that levy, whether we wanted to bring it up in addition to the core standards. And the core, you got to remember, and the Army Corps of Engineers will tell you this, they don't talk. They don't talk. You talk to FEMA engineers and they don't compare notes. So that's two government agencies, and I'll just leave it at that. But we talked about, does the town want to bring this, when we reconstruct this, make the whole length of that, not only Corps of Engineers compliant, but FEMA compliant? And the resounding answer was no. Okay, so now,
Well, Butch, if I could interject just for 1 minute, it's not just those two, because now, from what I read in the report, the levee's been classified as a dam by New Hampshire DES. So you really kind of have three things going on here. I mean, you have an Army Corps of Engineers says, yes, it meets it, and we will support you and help you if something happens. You have the FEMA who says, well, you know, the last 100 feet doesn't have the freeboard. And then you have the New Hampshire DES saying that this is classified as a dam, which brings it to a whole new level. So,
Okay.
I mean, it just seems like there's a whole lot of ambiguity here that could put the town of Lincoln at, you know, that's all I'm concerned about.
the Supreme Court got us out of DES for the portion that we own, or that we're responsible to maintain. The Supreme Court ruled we are locked into that federal maintenance to station 14 something, anything covered with granite blocks. Okay.
Right.
What it did say is we're not the owners. So if there's improvements over and above the 1950 of the agreement, okay, that's on the property owners. So therein is the town's position is, and we've already told them, there's a sluice gate down there, and there's an owner who got told, yours, you own it.
I mean, the town's responsible, from what I read, for inspections up to and including what the homeowners do on their property, whether they plant something, whether they mow their grass. I mean, this seems like a real albatross waiting for a problem, you know? Someone plants a tree out in their backyard and you gotta go and tell them, get it out of there, you know?
Yep, and that's what we're obligated to do, because, and again, we can go back, we can talk about this to ad nauseum, and you know that.
Yeah,
But
I
we
do
can
that,
Go
yeah.
back, the first meeting I ever had 9 years ago, when the FEMA and Corps of Engineers stood up, they were looking down at that damaged levee. The first thing that caught their eyes was the condos. And you can check, there was other people that witnessed this, and they said, who allowed that? And I thought they meant what they said was the condos. I said, I don't know, they were here when I got here, I guess the town did. And he said, well, they gotta go. That's it, they're in there illegally. They're into our levy. And I said, you're kidding, right? And he said, no. So that's how we progress. That's now those foundations through negotiations are now part of the levy/dam. We have unfettered access to that one building in particular, to the basements to check for cracks. They can't keep us out.
Yeah, I know. So I guess, I mean, I'll end you guys give me a bunch of information. I appreciate it, because it was hard to read through that and
Yep.
discern all of it. But I guess the bottom line is, and I'd like to look at the three selectmen here and ask, do you feel that the town of Lincoln is protected at this point from future huge costs? I mean, when I look at the cost of levy, it was budgeted at 1.4, came in at 1.8. I mean, we can't continue to do something like that. So do the three of you feel that we're protected enough?
I mean, I'll give you my opinion. I think In 1960, the town made a decision that was very beneficial for the town that relied on a paper mill.
Yep.
Okay, there are some aspects to that agreement that I want to say were pretty loose over the decade since then. You go back and read the 1960 operating agreement.
Yeah, I redid that.
Okay, we did not fulfill those obligations. Okay, so now if you're saying, well, the town has all these new obligations, it's like we really don't have new obligations. We have more strict compliance to the old obligations. We now not only do we have to inspect the dam every year, we really have to inspect it. We can't just say, oh, we inspected it. We have to actually go out there, do it, and spend money doing it, and get the problems cleared up on an annual basis, not just overlook them for years and years. Okay, we have added expense because in that decades long period, we allowed condos to be built in there. So now do we not only have to check the the grass and look for holes in the levee along the top of the whole thing, we have to get out in front of the condos and do that. And we have to go in their cellars and do that. And we have to monitor all of the issues that come with having residential property on top of this levee. So yes, it's more complicated, it's more costly, and is the town protected? The town is at no more risk now than it was before. It's just there's more regulation, compliance, and oversight related to that that's going to make us do those inspections and do the annual fix-up things that have been ignored for many years. I don't know if that answers your question, but
Well, it does for you, yeah, it does for you. I mean, the other thing I think about, OJ, is that there are still pieces of property that are not developed there, that are close to that levee. And I was wondering if maybe the town should develop a new classification in its zoning that says there is a levee area and this is what you can do there and this is what you can't, so that we don't further degrade that levee, or any future homeowners don't do that.
Paul,
But
if I can, OJ,
yeah, go ahead.
to Paul's point, I think, Paul, at least today, I think the planning board has quite a bit of ammo in its current regulations. If an applicant ever comes in, and I don't know, I know the property is for sale behind it, but if it did, I would hope that the planning board would look very carefully at issues, what kind of development's going to be done down there. It's going to be a complicated at best.
right,
And I think you have the tool. Could it be smoothed? Probably. But I know you're on the planning board. I don't know anybody else's, but I think you got to be aware of it. Yeah. And we have
well, I
some,
think so.
we have access down there now that we didn't have. We have legal access. We don't have to go other people's property. The town develops that hiking path down there to get to the swim hole and all that. So there's some good stuff that come out of it. But, at least your current public works director is committed to annually down there and doing what's right and filing the reports. I want to say one thing, the Corps of Engineers is putting together they're calling it a traveling roadshow. They are for their levies in the in the northeast region. And we're on the list. We in one levy in Maine are their most high hazard. And they are willing to come at least once a year and have a public session where people can ask questions about the Corps directly on how they operate. I haven't had this conversation with you, but I think that'll be a good program that, and I've already told Jessica Rudd, who's currently she's a captain, but she that is currently assigned, our levy's assigned to her and her team. And I told her whenever she had that scheduled together, that the town of Lincoln would be more than happy to host such a meeting so that public could actually ask directly questions of them and what that whole project means. So I think that's all good too.
All right. Like I said, thank you. You've answered all my questions. You know, I mean, it's a big report. I mean, there's a lot you can read in between it all. I just want to make sure that the town of Lincoln and its taxpayers are protected. That's, I mean, if you don't ask the questions, you can't get the right answer. So, thank you.
And thank you. Anyone else for public participation? Dave? Dave, you mute. There you go.
Yeah, I just wanted to get on and say that I disagree with your budget cuts that you made. I talked to quite a few people and they were under the assumption about the full-time new employees that you were hiring. I'm not here to speak for those people. They should have the right to come here and speak if they do so. There's several reasons why I disagree with it, because I think I spoke to Nate Hadaway and he, in that conversation, him and the fire chief both said that they could do without the fire department personnel and the public works guy for another year. Last time we had this big budget cut, we eliminated an employee that was currently working here. And after 3 or 4 or 5 years, I don't know how long it's been, everything seems to be going okay without that one employee. So not that the employee being missed, it was an added employee, I guess is what I'm trying to say now. And we don't have that. And where it's an add-on, and to eliminate that one position would probably get rid of half of the cuts that you made, which is going to impact far more people than a prospective employee. But having said that, that's your decision, and that's what it is. I want to speak to that part of it because I believe anyways, that during the budget hearing, it came up that these new employees should be on their own separate warrant article. And I think you probably would have had maybe a little different decision on all of it. And if they were on the separate article, then you wouldn't have maybe these cuts that you guys put into this operating budget. But that being said, I hope the person that they do hire for this position, first of all, is going to be qualified and not being a person that's going to have to learn the job on the job training. For the way Butch makes it sound, there's a whole lot of work that has to be done. We're behind schedule and this and that. So we need somebody who knows what's going on and can deal with the situations that come up. And secondly, I hope they would look at not using an on-call person to fill this spot for 2 reasons. If you have an on-call person that's going to fill this spot, he's no longer on the on-call department. He's probably going to, and it could probably show up, but I don't believe there's any money in the budget for overtime. So if he works during the day and then there's a fire at night and he responds, how is that going to work? And I guess that would be it for now.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment? All right. We are going to need to go into non-public, and I'll make a motion that we go into non-public. Number 1, to discuss. I had a phone call with Peter about the CRVI valuation assessment case, and I want to just discuss that. And we need to respond to Peter, so there'll be a decision related to that. And I want to discuss 2 personnel issues that came up during the week.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ron, can you make me the host of the meeting?
Yep, sure can, as soon as I get everybody off, except for you folks.
I'm going to take a minute. I'll be